Well, thank you. Welcome back. And I just was trying to think about where we've come so far. We've talked a little bit about what is MI, and then we talked about the spirit of MI. We've talked about the skills of MI. I guess we could go home now.
Not quite.
Well, why not? I mean, that's it, isn't it? I mean, you just have to kind of, right, like know it, and then be in that right attitude and skills, and that should be it.
Well, now we get to talk about how do we listen for where people are at and the direction that they're going, and how do we help along that continuum with
Yeah, but we've been listening all along here. You know, that's what you've said each time we've talked, is you've been listening and listening. Yeah. So really we're trying to get to is what's in literature is this issue of change talk. Right. Which other people call change theory, which we can break down to desire, ability, reason, and need. We can break it down to commitment language, actions that people take, taking steps, all of those things which we often call darn cat, which I don't like, so we're not gonna make fun of cats. But I'm a darn act kind of guy, and try to get away from the cat. But I, as you know me, I've changed it to this, to listen for the hopes and dreams. We change people through the heart and then through the mind, but most of all, we're listening for this change talk, or listen for what matters to them. And hopes and dreams are really, like why do what we're doing? Why have a meal? Why? Being a kid that grew up on the streets, I fell in love with carrot cake. That was my nutritional meal. It had carrots in it. Yeah. And it had, cream cheese on the top, and so my change talk might be to have carrots and some kind of cheese with it, but I never thought about it that way. I just grew up, and if I could figure out how to get $1 from somebody, I could get a carrot cake. They were big, so I filled my stomach up. So I'm interested in this issue of change talk, change theory, which is what we're trying to talk about. How do we recognize it? I think that's really where we are, is trying to, how do you recognize it? How do you evoke it from people? How do you, because, I mean, what, if you grow up poor, well, or you just grow up fundamentally believing, that these foods are directly related to the religion of your life. And even if they're not good for you, but they fill in the multi-generational process of being carried down. Like, this is what my grandmother fed me. Yeah. This is what my great-grandmother fed me. Yeah. I mean, how do we get change talk out of that stuff? Well, how do we even recognize it?
Well, and I think it goes back to what we were talking about from the first one or the second one, is what are the hopes and dreams, and what are the values around that, and being able to say to someone, what would you need in order to get there? What would you need in order to get to where it is that you're wanting to go? The generational part, especially as we talk through the food piece, it's very real. It's very real. You talk about your carrot cake, but you had nutrition. You were getting nutrition the way that you could get nutrition. And I think, being able to help people identify if they're able to verbalize, this is what I've done, this is how I grew up, this is where I've been, what would you like to be different for your child or for you? Where
Well, I'd
do
like a
you see
lot of
that?
things to be different, but I can't. We're talking about we're talking about Christianity. We're talking about me growing up, you know, in a certain way. You know, that you have powdered milk because milk costs,
Yeah.
and powdered milk does not.
Yes.
Macaroni and cheese, 19 cents a box from Prince.
Yeah.
You know, so what you're trying to do, what you're saying is that how do you, even when you ask the question like, you know, what do you want different? There's a power over there. Like
Yeah.
you should want something different. So I'm interested in how do you hold the duality of like, here's what you learned,
Right.
and you want your children. Now this is where the hopes and dreams. You want your children to really be able to soar in the world. And so, what do you do with that? So I think that's where you evoke the recognize the change talk. Is do they have something on the other side of that?
And I think that's what you do very well, is being able to highlight that. And especially when you're talking about a parent-child relationship, most parents are doing the absolute best that they can.
Right. And they'd like to do a little more.
And they want to do more. They want to do more.
Yes. They would like to do a little more.
They would. I have an example that would fit
Okay.
this.
All right, I love your
So,
examples.
okay, so this kiddo that worked with me, mom had type 2 diabetes, but had progressed and required insulin. Her son, who did this program with me, was 11 and 215 pounds, and he could eat 4 Big Macs. And mom said to me, he tells me he's hungry. I grew up hungry. I don't want my son feeling hungry. And you love your son, and you don't want him feeling the way that you did. And you're going to make sure that he doesn't. And so I think that's an example of what you're talking about. How do we tap into that? And I mean, we could go off and talk a lot about hunger cues and how do we do that, but it's
But in your ambivalence,
Yes.
you really want to, you know, hold that you know what that feeling of hunger is,
yes,
and you really love him,
yeah,
and you're worried about his weight
and getting diabetes,
and getting diabetes like you,
yes,
right? And that's the duality,
right,
and that you're then then you've got some kind of agreement here
yeah,
of what the struggle is.
yeah,
And that's where the open-ended question comes,
yeah,
right? Which is like, where do you go from here?
right,
What's your next step?
right,
What are you thinking about?
right,
And this is a place where people start to set goals for people and try to make it bigger, and like, let's see if we can do this. And this is a place where I think workers, helpers, actually have a difficult time, because then they want to take over.
right. Well, because we have all the information that
Yeah,
we
exactly.
are so desperate to be able to bring and
yeah,
share.
this is it. We're here
Right,
now. Let's go.
right, right,
Let's go. It's
right,
in action.
right,
We can give them
right.
all of what we got.
Right, but I also think, like in this instance, it's not the fact that he's eating 4 Big Macs. It's the fact that he's feeling hungry, and mom wants to save him from that. And so how do we find that balance and have the conversation? What else is there that might help you feel hunger? And
Yeah.
bring the nutrition piece in.
But again, you're missing 2 points. So I want to just say that's the suffering. Yes.
Yes.
That he's saying, I'm hungry.
Yes.
She remembers,
Yes.
right, the hunger that she grew up with. And it wasn't for Big Macs, and it wasn't somebody was going to feed.
Yeah.
She, like, I know what that feeling feels like. And in her,
Yes.
she doesn't want her son to feel that.
Right.
And so she'll feed them.
Yes.
And there's another side. She loves him.
Mm-hmm.
And she's worried about him having diabetes.
Yes.
So the issue isn't suffering.
Yeah.
It's being able to hold equally the duality.
Yeah.
And then wondering. And as I said, this is a trap where most workers go, oh, we're here, you know, instead of like honoring that duality, that conflict. And I loved what you know, this goes back to the empowerment, the whisper, like, what do you want to do with this?
Yeah.
If anything.
If anything.
And as a helper, can you accept if anything is the answer?
Yeah.
Can you, that's where the spirit is sort of meeting this change talk or recognizing the change talk. And so, but here, there has to be a place. There has to be a place where you got all this information. I mean, you went to school. I could see all these little brain waves that you have in your head about nutrition. Don't you get to share it?
Yes. And
but when? I mean, I just said there's a trap here.
Yeah. Well, I think this is where, in my view, you're supporting autonomy and asking permission before offering ideas.
All right. So one of the things is to ask permission.
Yes.
To literally say, I've got some ideas that might be helpful to your son and this hunger issue.
Yes.
Would you be open to it?
Yes.
So just really ask up front.
Yeah.
And if they say no, let it go.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But most of us have this reflection, this reflex to just offer all of that. And I mean, the good news is if I was working with people around nutrition, I know nothing, so I'm not going to be reflecting anything back to them. But you have a lot of information. How would you hold back? And not just go, I mean, there's a reflex there.
There is and it's the fixing reflex, and it's wanting to help, and it's wanting to, you don't want to see people hurt, and you do have this information. For me, it was very rare that somebody would say no, because I had utilized the spirit, I had utilized that, and we had the trust that was there. And so I think that, looking back on everything that we've covered to this point, if you've invested in that relationship and built that relationship, when you ask permission, there's usually acceptance with that, because you've built that.
Right.
And I can offer these, you can tell me what might work, if any, or none of them.
Right.
So
you've said, I mean, this goes back to a beautiful phrase that I've often used, which is the individual is like the individual, the family, the community is like gardens to be tended, and not machines to be repaired. And what you're talking about is if I've done the right work to cultivate the garden, then when I offer it, it's going to be of value to them, and they're going to say yes, because they can see that I care. That they matter, and that I've seen their view of the world, and I've painted, I've literally sat next to them and saw the world and the vista of their world, and heard their narration. And so this is where I can recognize change talk. If they've already said it, I don't have to go back.
Right.
I don't have to go back to ambivalence. But if they haven't done it, I can actually offer them some things.
Right. Right.
So I've asked permission.
Yes.
I've offered it. Is that it?
Well, I think then you want to tap into what did they make of that information?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you want to
see
check in.
how that lands on
Right.
them in the final analysis. Does it
Right.
really fit?
Right.
Does it fit into their value structure?
Yes.
Does it fit into their budget? Does it fit into their view of the world?
Right.
Does it make sense, or is it just
Right.
my
Yeah.
idea here? So you've got three parts, right? This is ask, offer, ask.
Yes.
And for you, that really, is a place where you, as the expert,
Yes.
can bring you as a coach, you as somebody who's being a helper here that has information about the struggle.
Yes. I would also add in here
Yes, I'd love it.
how in kind of using that approach as you're talking about food.
Ask, offer, ask.
Ask, offer, ask. Most likely, if we're working with people around nutrition, this is not the first conversation they've had about nutrition.
Right.
And so it really allows you to tap into information that they might already have, things that they've already tried, and it removes that any sort of shaming that might creep in, because again, chances are if we're working with people with a chronic health condition, maybe diabetes or high cholesterol, there's likely been some sort of shaming around food, around their weight, around their body. And this gives you that opportunity to not do that again. And, coming at it through a food coach lens, from a nutrition lens, this is it's an opportunity to give people a really safe, comfortable, soft spot to talk about nutrition and food. Maybe even, weight, their body, which are very personal things for people to talk about. And so being mindful of asking first, checking in first, instead of just doing an info dump,
Right.
is going to
Info dump.
a new didactic thing. It gives a really nice environment for the people that you're working with, and maybe something that they haven't experienced.
Well, we have to summarize this section, and which was really about recognizing and even evoking and recognizing change talk, and also the idea of here of listening for the hopes and dreams, and that people really have some a duality, that they have hopes and dreams, and they have the struggle where they are and what they're feeling and what they're noticing. And again, in your story, you talked about the mother having these feelings about being hungry, and how that has been a relational context between her and her son.
Yeah.
And that really recognizing change talk is recognizing desire, ability, reason, and need, and watching people making movements.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you would summarize about this section, this process?
No, I think it's this listening for that language that people are working towards something, and being able to hear that and recognize that, it'll loop in and bring back in that empowerment piece, and again, that safe spot to be able to talk about really personal things without having them feel shamed and judged.
Yeah, and I think the other thing we missed is this is finally the opportunity for the expert, the co-expert, to join the room.
Yeah.
This is where we change people through the heart. We've done that.
Yeah.
And now we're moving to, we change people through the mind. And now we can be the expert through ask, offer, ask, being mindful to what it is that they value, what it is that we harvested from the conversation.
Food related.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.